So, Jeff, part of this deal is going to include an expansion of the child tax credit. What's your reporting telling you about where this is headed?
So, as viewers might remember, in March, Democrats approved a major expansion of what's called the child tax credit for poor families in particular. The White House promised that this plan could lower child poverty by as much as 50%. But throughout the last few months, there's been a looming question of, will this program just expire at the end of the year, because the stimulus plan only included it for 1 year. Now, the White House initially proposed approving the extension of this bigger child tax credit to cut poverty through 2025. But my understanding from recent reporting is that to have additional money to be able to approve other programs as part of the reconciliation package, Democrats are looking at a shorter extension, maybe 3 years of the child tax credit to save money and continue to fight for that benefit when it is set to expire. But its fate is very much up in the air. Millions of families are going to start receiving the benefit tomorrow, so it's a very timely discussion.
Can you break down for us what millions of families are actually going to start seeing as of tomorrow when the CTC kicks in for them?
That's a great question. The White House and Treasury have been saying that 90% of children, will be getting the benefit with no additional action required. So that's a huge number. But the big problem there is that the families who are most in need of the help are also the least likely to get it. And that primarily consists of the 7 million or so of children in households where the parents do not file income taxes. Because they don't file income taxes, the IRS doesn't know how to get them the benefit. Because the IRS doesn't know how to get them the benefit, they're quite at risk of missing out. The IRS set up a website designed to allow people to update their information to claim the credit, but it's very unclear whether people, poor people in particular, are able to see that, access it, and use it in a way that would allow them to get this $250 per kid benefit starting tomorrow.
Is there any any serious public relations campaign planned, or are they just relying on kind of word of mouth? Hey, where'd you get that $300 to get this done?
I think the White House will be very adamant that they're pulling out all the stops, doing everything they can, et cetera, to work with nonprofits, housing groups, to try to get the word out through social media and other means. But I think it's very, very suspect, really. Like, this is something the White House had said repeatedly would cut child poverty in half, and it looks to me at least like there's at least 5 or 6 million kids out of really 10 million in poverty who are not even going to get it at all. So it will really challenge the White House's promises here if they can't reach these non-filers. There's a very heated debate sort of in the child benefit community where a number of experts say that the mistake here, the cardinal original sin of this whole plan, was designing it through the tax code and through the IRS. The IRS sort of has a lower political valence than welfare spending. So since the 90s, Democrats have almost tried to disguise benefits for poor people as tax credit programs. The problem with that, some of these critics will say, is that there are other government agencies, such as the Security Administration, that would be much better at administering the benefit because they have annual data on where kids are. But to do it the way Democrats want to do it, to make it means tested, to require that you cut off the richest families from the program and to put it in the IRS as a tax program rather than as a spending program, makes it, some people say, although other very credible experts totally dispute this. So I don't want to come down too definitively or come down definitively at all on one side. That was a very long-winded answer, but the core of it is a lot of people are going to miss out. The White House is going to do everything it can to message around that, but perhaps the original design is the ultimate problem.
So can you talk about when the benefit would expire? You said 3 years from now. That's right around election time. Do you think Democrats are that was an easy negotiating point because they're confident once it's implemented, anybody would have a really hard time rolling it back?
That's exactly right. I mean, someone I've talked to this morning was just saying, hey, let Republicans campaign against this, and we'll take it to them on them trying to cut off millions of families, millions of low-income families from these essential monthly payments. That seems to be their calculation, and frankly, it makes a lot of sense, especially if it's going to pay for, Medicare to cover dental, vision care starting next year, right? That is a front-loaded benefit that Democrats are eager to run on, and they're saying this is our best chance of keeping power. Let's push out benefits immediately to people and campaign on that, rather than say let's put the benefits in year 6 and hope that by then it still takes effect. For that reason. So it's an interesting political calculus as well.
So can we narrow down the calendar at all? So if it's a year-long benefit, does it start July 2021? So the year goes to July 2022, and then 3 more years would take it to July 2025, mm-hmm. Or does it actually start a little bit earlier, like when it passed earlier this year? So in other words, are we talking 2024? It expiring in an election year, or are we talking that expiring after the election? Or is that, obviously that's still being debated.
That's a really great question. And if you were editing the story that I just submitted to my editors, it'd be like a giant red pen, hey, what's this mean? And I kind of try to write around it a little bit. But this is a guess. I'll give you my best understanding, reported guess kind of assumption, which is basically that they have a number that they want to use for this program, right? They're trying to make all these component pieces add up to 3.5 trillion. And when you go through the math, you say, let's say we have, I don't know what it is, but initially it was 400 billion for child tax credits. Let's say it's now down to 330. That's made up, but then they'll take that number to the CBO and say, how much do we get from that? I don't think they have that yet.
And it depends on how much,
number, and then we'll figure out the year based on that. That's my impression.
Right, because it kind of depends on how much take-up there is, too. If you're right that millions of children are left out because of design flaws in the program, then ironically the program can actually last longer because they're drawing it down slower. I've heard from administration officials that because of the Trump checks that went out last year and the Biden check that went out this year, that millions of people who had never filed before filed so that they could get those checks, and so that's one reason they're optimistic that they're going to be able to reach more people than skeptics think. Do you think there's any credibility to that argument?
The latest I've heard is that while there were a lot of people who did that, the number of parents is actually a lot lower. I think, to give the White House a little bit of credit, this is the first month of a program they just approved in March. And the optimistic case is that over the next few months, more and more people will hear about it and be eager to sign up. Some of these programs take a long time to get going, and we're really not that far out from the path of the bill. But I spent some time this week talking to non-filers, and there's a lot of skepticism of the government. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of confusion when they look at the IRS website. And I think this is really important for us to watch, but I think they may have underestimated the challenge of reaching non-filers, and that it's going to severely blunt the anti-poverty impacts that everyone wants to see here. It's one of those things where we don't really have super clear data yet. The last number I heard was that only 400,000 people who signed up for the IPs are going to be included in the, as in the filer portal through the IRS. So we'll have to see.
Right. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for giving us some of your time.
No, thank you guys so much for having me. And Ryan, I hope you're ready for your taxes to go up on your multi-million dollar estate.
That's right. That's right. What was your estate listed at?
My estate was $3 million. So.
Well, so you guys are the same. You're equally wealthy.
Jeff is talking about
Liz Bruning was listed at $3 billion.
$3 billion for Liz Bruning. Wow.
No, she couldn't buy as many houses as Bernie.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that the household, or was that just Liz Bruning?
That's all the cooking she does, I think.
Okay. Yeah,
congratulations to both of you. Either way.
Yeah, we worked hard. We worked hard for it. Now we're gonna pull the ladder up.
Thanks, Jeff, so much. We always appreciate it. Next on Rising, we're going to take a look at the big names in Jeffrey Epstein's 1997 address book. That's when we come back right after this.